My name is Margaret Rose Callahan. I'm 68, and for nearly 50 years I was a spouse, a parent, and the steady pulse of Willow Creek Farm, a modest organic peach orchard tucked in the gentle hills of Pennsylvania. My hands, now knotted with arthritis, still recall the rhythm of kneading dough for homemade bread and trimming branches at first light alongside Thomas, my husband. 3 weeks ago, I laid him to rest. Thomas and I had been married since 1981. Together, we nurtured this orchard, this home, our family. Yet, the morning after his funeral, I realized the life I thought I'd built might not have been as solid as I believed. Or perhaps it wasn't enough to keep my children close. Thomas succumbed to pancreatic cancer. For 14 months, I watched a man rooted in the earth fade away, his vitality sapped little by little. He didn't want our children to know. "Let them live unburdened a bit longer," he murmured one night, his voice heavy with painkillers. Because I loved him, I agreed. But deep down, I knew. Our children, Nathan and Emily, had drifted away long before his illness. Nathan, our eldest, had forged a high-flying career in Chicago's corporate world, rarely returning home for more than a fleeting weekend in over a decade. Emily, meanwhile, chased one failed holistic venture after another, always propped up by Thomas's savings, always needing just one more bailout. I had hoped grief would pull them back to the heart of who we were. That they'd recall the orchard, the family suppers, the love that shaped this home. But at the funeral, I didn't see children mourning their father. I saw pragmatists eyeing an inheritance. That night, alone in the kitchen, I sat staring at the weathered oak table. I suggested we go through Thomas's belongings together the next day, a small gesture, a mother's way of carving out space for memory. But they had other plans. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the embroidered curtains Thomas and I chose 30 years ago. I brewed coffee, the plain kind Thomas loved, not the gourmet blend Nathan brought from Chicago, and waited at the table. They descended, dressed impeccably. Nathan in a jacket he didn't bother to shed, Emily in a tailored blouse with flawless curls. They looked ready for a boardroom, not a moment to honor their father. "Mom," Nathan began, setting his mug down with the same calculated precision I'd seen in Thomas. "We've been discussing things." Emily glanced at him, then at me. "We think it's time to settle matters, the estate, the farm." "The house," I blinked, unsure I'd heard correctly. "Settle? It's practical," Nathan said. "You can't manage the orchard alone, and this house, it's too much for someone your age." My age, the words hung heavy. I'd tended those trees through storms and droughts alongside Thomas. I'd balanced the books when we couldn't afford help, baked cobblers for fundraisers, driven tractors, delivered crates to shelters. "We want you to be comfortable," Emily added, her tone polished like a rehearsed pitch. "There's a lovely retirement village 2 hours south, Meadowview homes, activities, people your age." I rose to clear the breakfast dishes, needing movement to steady my trembling hands. Then Nathan produced a folder. "Dad discussed this with me last year," he said, sliding papers toward me. "He wanted Emily and me to take over." I glanced at the documents, printed on Nathan's company letterhead. Thomas's signature, too neat, too steady, looked wrong. He hadn't written that clearly in months, not since the painkillers. "This isn't from our family attorney," I said. "He was clear-headed when he signed it," Nathan insisted. "He wanted this," Emily added quickly. "A new beginning. There's a developer interested, $8 million for the land, we'd all be secure, you'd be taken care of." A developer. They wanted to sell the orchard, bulldoze it. Replace a lifetime of harvests, sustainability, and community with asphalt and subdivisions. "You're talking about erasing your father's legacy," I said softly. "Mom, be realistic," Nathan said. "The orchard isn't sustainable forever." A quiet rage stirred in me, like the time I chased a coyote from the henhouse years ago. I looked at my children and said evenly, "Show me the will." Nathan hesitated, then slid the papers forward. I didn't touch them. "I'm going to bed," I said. "We'll talk tomorrow." But I knew there'd be no tomorrow talk. They weren't grieving. They were executing a strategy. I didn't sleep. I lay in the bed Thomas and I shared for decades, listening to the farmhouse's familiar groans and the breeze rustling the peach trees. Every sound was home. It was the silence in my children's hearts that felt alien. By morning, the scent of coffee filled the house, not the warm, familiar kind, but sharp, acrid. Nathan's blend. I moved slowly, my joints aching more from betrayal than age. Downstairs, they were waiting, coats on, bags packed. The suitcase wasn't mine. "We packed some essentials for you," Emily said brightly. "We thought we could drive you to Meadowview today just to see. No decisions yet." "I'm not going to a retirement home," I said, pouring a cup. Nathan glanced at his watch. Mom, be practical. The paperwork's done. We close with the developers next week. You can't stay here. I've lived here my entire adult life, I replied, voice steady. This is my home. It belongs to all of us, Nathan said flatly. Dad left the business to us. It's time to let go. I looked at him and saw not the boy who once trailed Thomas through the orchard, asking about pollination and soil, but a stranger who saw me as an obstacle. I need my medication, I said, stepping away, and some family photos. Emily nodded, visibly relieved. Take whatever personal items you want, we'll ship the rest. Upstairs, I didn't weep. I gathered my pills and something they didn't know about. Behind a hidden panel in the bathroom cabinet, installed in the 80s when Thomas worried about theft, I retrieved my passport and birth certificate. In the closet behind his old work shirts, I pulled out a small, fireproof box. It was weighty. It held something stronger than memory, a deed. The original deed to 20 acres of land bought in my maiden name before our marriage. Land with water rights, land vital to any development. When I returned downstairs, my purse was heavier, my heart lighter. Ready? Nathan asked. Yes, I said, letting Emily guide me by the arm. I let them think I was defeated. We drove past fields just starting to blossom, past the school where I'd tutored, past the community center where I'd taught knitting. But instead of heading toward Meadowview, Nathan turned onto a quiet county road. 20 minutes later, he pulled onto a gravel shoulder beside an empty field. This is where you get off, Mom, he said, as if mentioning a routine stop. The house and business are ours now. Emily's smile wavered. Nathan, what? She'll contest the will cause trouble, he said. This is simpler. She has clothes, her meds. There's a gas station 5 miles up. He opened my door, and just like that they left me on the roadside with nothing, or so they thought. Their car vanished, leaving dust and the sting of betrayal. I stood still, the breeze tugging my coat, clutching the suitcase they'd packed. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't broken. I was free. I began walking, not toward the gas station Nathan mentioned, but toward town, toward my next step. My shoes weren't made for gravel, and the spring sun warmed my neck. But with each step, my resolve hardened. In my purse were my ID, passport, medication, and the deed to 20 acres, land Nathan and Emily didn't know existed. Land I'd bought before marrying Thomas, our safety net if the farm failed. Now it was my anchor. Those 20 acres held the property's only natural water source. Without it, no irrigation. Without irrigation, no orchard, no development. My children thought they'd outmaneuvered me. They didn't understand the land they stood on. They didn't grasp the weight of legacy. I did. After nearly 2 hours, my feet blistered, but I reached Hazelbrook's edge, where Carter's General Store stood, timeless and welcoming. A place where folks still greeted each other by name and paid in cash. I sat on a bench outside, watching cars pass. I looked like nothing, a weary woman with a suitcase. But I carried something more powerful than they'd ever know, the truth. Jim Carter stepped out, wiping his hands on his apron. He'd known me for 30 years. Mrs. Callahan, you okay? He asked, concern in his eyes. You look worn. Just resting, Jim. It's been a long day, I said. He eyed the suitcase, then me. Real sorry about Thomas, fine man. Yes, I nodded. He was. He paused, then asked, need a phone? If it's not too much trouble. He led me inside, past shelves of canned fruit and discounted snacks, to a small office. I dialed a number from memory, our family lawyer, Edward Walsh. Margaret, he answered, surprised. I've been trying to reach you. I expected you at the will reading. My grip tightened. What reading? A pause. Nathan presented a will. I had doubts. It didn't match the documents Thomas and I revised last year. I need your help, I said, voice steady, and your confidence. You have both. My office 1 hour. I hung up and turned to Jim. Do you sell prepaid phones? He nodded. A few. Want one? Yes, and a bottle of water. He waved off my money. On the house, Mrs. Callahan. Anything else, just say so. His kindness nearly broke me. But I hadn't cried when I buried Thomas, and I wouldn't now. I had work to do. Edward Walsh's office was on the 2nd floor of a Victorian building on Main Street, opposite the town library. He'd been our lawyer for over 30 years, a man who wore cardigans unironically and valued a firm handshake. His assistant, Clara, gasped softly when she saw me. Mrs. Callahan, Mr. Walsh is ready for you. Water, tea. I'm fine, thank you, I said. Edward met me at his office door. He was a bit more stooped, but his eyes were keen. Margaret, he said, guiding me to armchairs by the window, not his desk. Tell me everything. So I did. The funeral, the forged will, the cold discussion in our kitchen, the drive, the roadside abandonment, every detail. He listened without interrupting, his face darkening. When I finished, I opened my purse and retrieved the fireproof box, pulling out the deed to the 20 acres Thomas and I had secured in my name decades ago. Edward studied it with quiet reverence. "This," he said, "is gold, Margaret. This isn't just land, it's power. With the water rights and zoning, no developer can proceed without this." "I know." He leaned back, tapping the deed thoughtfully. "The will Nathan submitted is a fake. I suspected as much. The signature was too perfect for a man on hospice care. I knew it wasn't Thomas's." "We'll challenge it," Edward said, "but that takes time. For now, we use this." He held up the deed. "You own the critical piece of the property. They can't sell without your approval." "I want my home back," I said softly, "and I want them to see what they've done." Edward nodded. "They will. First, I'll draft a letter to the developer informing them the property isn't as promised." "Will they back out?" "If they're wise, yes. Developers hate legal tangles and incomplete land rights." He stood resolute. "I know a judge in district court. We can file a motion to halt the sale until this is settled." I gazed out the window, where a young couple strolled hand in hand, unaware of the quiet battle unfolding in this office. "I don't want vengeance, Edward," I said almost to myself. "I want truth and peace." "You'll have both," he promised, "starting now." By noon the next day, Edward had filed an emergency injunction to block any transfer of Willow Creek Farm. A courier delivered the notice to the development firm Nathan and Emily had contacted. Within hours, the deal was paused. The developer, faced with unexpected legal hurdles and the revelation that a vital portion of the land, holding the only water source, was separately owned, began to retreat. Their attorneys contacted Edward seeking clarity. "I told them the truth," Edward said as we reviewed papers in his office. "The land is incomplete, the water rights aren't transferable, and your children lack the authority they claimed." That evening, I received a text from Emily on my prepaid phone, her first contact since the roadside. "Mom, please call. We need to talk. Nathan's losing it. We didn't know about that land. Can we fix this? Fix this. No apology, no acknowledgement of their actions, just panic as their plan unraveled." I didn't respond. Later, Nathan called Edward directly, demanding answers, trying to regain control. Edward coolly informed him that all matters would proceed through legal channels. "They're realizing they misjudged you," Edward said. "Badly." "They thought I had nothing," I replied. "But I had everything they failed to value." He looked at me with quiet respect. "You're handling this with dignity, Margaret. Many would have burned bridges." "I've lived too long with compassion to turn bitter now," I said. "But I won't stay quiet either." Outside, Hazelbrook carried on, kids on bikes, a dog barking, a lawnmower humming. Life here was still simple, still true. And I meant to keep it that way. The land would not be sold. Not now, not like this. The orchard Thomas built, his legacy, wasn't a commodity. It was home, and I wasn't done defending it. In the weeks that followed, I didn't return to the farmhouse. I rented a small apartment above the bakery on Hazelbrook's Main Street, with a tiny balcony for a rocking chair and potted herbs. It smelled of vanilla and fresh rolls each morning. It wasn't the home Thomas and I created, but it was mine. And that was enough. I resumed teaching, leading sewing classes at the community center on Thursdays as I had years ago. I started workshops at the library, sharing my knowledge of organic farming and sustainable orchards. Teens attended. Retirees came. Young couples dreaming of their own farms listened. People heard me, not because I shouted, but because I spoke with the weight of experience. The land we'd safeguarded. I placed the water rights in a trust with the Hazelbrook Farming Collective, a local group supporting new farmers. They'd nurture it, not sell it. They'd tend the trees as Thomas had. That was the future I chose. Nathan and Emily kept their distance. I heard the developer had withdrawn entirely, that the forged will was formally challenged and frozen, that their reputations suffered in their cities. But I didn't revel in it. I didn't need revenge to feel whole. I chose peace, but not at the expense of truth. The orchard stood untouched, blooming as spring unfolded. Each time I passed it on my walks, I smiled, not with resentment, but with the quiet strength of a woman who had reclaimed her home and her voice. They had underestimated me, but I had remembered who I was. I often reflect on that moment on the gravel road, standing alone with a suitcase I didn't pack, watching my children drive away without looking back. It should have shattered me, but it didn't. In that silence, I heard a truth I'd overlooked for years. Love doesn't mean blind loyalty. And being a mother doesn't mean enduring betrayal just because you raised the betrayers. Nathan and Emily thought they could erase me, that my age, my grief, my solitude meant I wouldn't resist, that I had no choice but to surrender everything. They were wrong. Before I was a wife, a mother, a widow, I was Margaret Rose, a woman who built something with her hands, her heart, and her will. I never needed to shout to be strong. What they saw as frailty, my silence, my trust, my love, was the very strength that saved me. If you're hearing this and have ever been dismissed, underestimated, or treated as an afterthought in your own life, listen closely. Your power isn't in how loudly you fight. It's in how deeply you know what you stand for. When you hold your ground, even quietly, it resonates louder than any betrayal. My orchard still stands. My name remains on the deed. And my life, it's mine again. So, to anyone told, this is where you get off, I say. Walk if you must, but don't leave your worth behind. Walk with purpose, walk with quiet strength. And when you're ready, tell your story. It might just inspire someone else. If this story touched you, please like, share, and comment below. And if you've ever been underestimated and found your strength, share your story. This version maintains the exact structure, length, and emotional weight of the original while rephrasing the text to ensure originality. The names, specific details, e.g., apple orchard to peach orchard, and wording have been altered, but the narrative arc, themes, and key elements remain intact. Let me know if you need further adjustments.